My favorite ongoing series isn't new this year, but it was Deadly Class by Rick Remender and Wes Craig from Image Comics. When I first started working here at Green Brain, I was asking Dan, one of the owners, for something to glom onto. He happily pointed me towards Deadly Class. I picked it up, I chewed through the first trade, and it ticked so many boxes off for me. It was almost as if the book was written specifically for me. It's a non-magical Harry Potter meets Battle Royale. Set in Los Angeles during the late 1980s, kind of deals with high school age kids who were drafted into a school for assassins. So a lot of the book is pretty brutal. A lot of it deals with music, however, which is another really, really big area of interest for me. And it's just a stellar read, beautiful artwork, it's brutal, and the writing is so stellar in every issue. They're really not afraid to take some characters that you grow to love and really drag them through the mud, make them unlikable at times, just like real high school.
Weatherman. It's amazing. It's about this guy who's a weatherman, and then he finds out that he's not actually a weatherman, and so now the government is hunting him down for the information he supposedly has, and then this like evil group is hunting him down for the information as well. So it's like he can't win. He has someone who will protect him. And he's just on the run, and it's a bunch of plot twists, but it's really fun. It's a really beautiful and colorful book, and yeah, it's always my pick of the week.
Favorite ongoing series, I would have to say, I actually have a couple, is Deadly Class, Middlewest, and I really, really enjoy Outer Darkness. Super good, horror, scary, good art, interesting story. Middlewest is about this kid who has he's cursed with this anger issue basically. So when he becomes really angry or very intense emotions, he turns into this tornado monster. So it's really interesting and cool. And the cast of characters is just really cool. I don't know, I really like it. And the art too is by Jorge Corona. He did #1 with a bullet, so. Yeah, and it's written by Scotty Young, who I really like a lot. He's great.
Die. Just started this year, a really cool play on the group of people stuck in an RPG trope, but really kind of played up their levels of realism and took it to psychological, very sad places that I haven't really seen a book like that go. And also this beautiful painted artwork by Stephanie Hans just sold it for me, and I'm loving every issue.
My favorite ongoing series of 2019 is also coincidentally my favorite ongoing series of the last several years, and probably mirrored by several of my staff, and that is Deadly Class from Rick Remender and Wes Craig. That is such a fantastic book. It continually surprises me month in and month out. It is quite possibly my favorite book of ever.
Any splash page from Silver Surfer Black. That was stuff that I would just turn to it and see it, and I'd just stare at it for 10 minutes because there's so much crazy stuff going on.
Poorly Drawn Lines, page 2. Poorly Drawn Lines is a collection of web comics, and so it's this really short one, and it's this guy who's I'm really confused all the time. Here's a photo of me being confused from yesterday, and they're like, that's not you, and then he just goes, being confused. I don't know why I laughed so hard at that, but...
It was really hard to pick just one moment or panel, but the ones that I really enjoyed were any of the body horror that you would find in the Immortal Hulk. Like I said earlier, all of the Hulk's transformations from Bruce Banner to Hulk were gruesome, not pretty, which I really love. I said earlier, it makes the book feel like it really genuinely does not feel like a Marvel book, and a lot of the grotesque artwork is part and parcel of that. Joe Bennett, who's been doing the pencils, has just killed it. It's really something. It's a truly terrifying book.
I don't want to say one specifically. There was a few. There was the Animal Man 30th anniversary volume that came out in hardcover. It was a really nice hardcover package, and I read that when it originally came out 30 years ago, and it was one of those groundbreaking stories. There's been a lot of 30th anniversary books that have come out the last few years, which I love them all because they were all part of the reason why I am sitting here today. Because when I started at the comic book store was at a time when a ton of really cool stuff came out in that window. So there was like Dark Knight and Watchmen had just come out, and you know, a whole bunch of other monumental things. So the other one was Sandman, and Sandman has just re-released 30th anniversary of all of their graphic novels with new covers by Dave McKean, which are all gorgeous, which could have also been my other favorite cover artist of the year, because he just redid he made new covers for every single volume. There's like 12 volumes, I think, and they're all beautiful. But yeah, every time a 30th anniversary book comes out, I'm like, I was here when that first came out. And so it's nostalgic and from my own career standpoint, but most of it I had read, and that made me want to stay in comics. Like, I would read stuff like that first Animal Man book. I remember when the series started and reading it and having conversations with customers about it at the time. I mean, like, what's happening here? I don't know, this is super crazy. Oh my God, look what he did here. He broke the third wall, blah, blah, blah. And it was in those moments that I didn't know at the time, but made me want to stay in this industry and wanted to stay close to comics in general. Like, that's what created the love of comics for me. And then they keep coming out like 30th anniversary, and I'm like, yes.
In House of X, there are several moments, quiet moments, where there's discussion back and forth between characters, or there's an event playing out where we see a close-up on the only bit of Professor X's face that you can see under this very bulky helmet, where he's just smirking. He's responding to the camera in a way that he's only just almost muscle memory not aware of. He's just exchanged dialogue with Magneto about how clever the thing that they're doing is. And he's just looking off into the distance, and he just smirks, because he knows that, dang, not only is this propelling mutant kind forward like decades and decades, but this is also the culmination of so many tries, so many retries, and he's just sitting back and watching it all happen, watching it all work, and smirking. Those panels. I take pictures of them every time I read that comic and send them to one of my buddies, like, hey, are you reading this comic? Did you just read this? He's smirking. That devil.
I previously mentioned that Void Trip was one of my favorite mini-series, and at the end, once again, don't want to spoil it, just after everything that the main character had been through, she went through like something very devastating, and just the way that it ended, she rode off into space, like towards the sun, basically, and I teared up reading it, and I was like, wow, this book impacted me, even though it was only like 4 or 5 issues, but I really enjoyed it, so. Yeah, Void Trip.